Welcome to Gossip About Gossip, powered by Hedera Hashgraph. In each episode, we'll cut through the hype of blockchain promises and explore real-world examples of organizations creating the next generation of decentralized applications, which will bring trust back to the internet for us all.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Gossip About Gossip, the podcast where we talk about real-world applications of distributed ledger technology. My name is Zenobia Godschalk, and I'm the SVP of Communications here at Swirlds Labs, helping to grow the Hedera ecosystem. Today, I am so excited to welcome a guest who may be familiar to many of you by name, but you were not maybe quite sure if he actually existed in person. So I'm delighted to be joined by Patches, who runs both the Turtle Moon project and Hgraph. Hi, Patches, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me. Excited.
So this is actually not the first time that I have met you in person. We met a couple of weeks ago at Consensus, and we will get to that in a little bit. But you are so known and loved throughout the community. You know, I think everybody appreciates everything that you do in terms of participation and help with other projects. Today, I'd love to just spotlight your projects and talk a little bit about where you spend most of your time when you're not engaging with and being so helpful to others.
For sure. Yeah. I appreciate the kind words. I've been building on Hedera for about 2 years now, coming up on 2 years. And in that time, have made a lot of friendships and just really enjoyed the community of Hedera. I think that's one of the strongest selling points is the openness of the community and how they communicate. So we've started 2 years ago, created a project called Hgraph Punks, which is an NFT project, and it was the first one that was meant to be large scale. And the purpose was to go over and find the problems of having a large scale NFT project and then create solutions for them. So in that process, we created Turtle Moon, which I'm CEO of, which is a NFT services company. We made the first minting tools. We made the first one of the first launch pads. We launched projects like Dead Pixels, Hgraph Punks, Hangry Barboons, and then we got into the services where we did the first 3-stage farming for NFTs, the first token gated votes using Hedera Consensus service. We're using NFTs as a token. And so we really have tried to be on the forefront of figuring out how to make this really great technology that we see in Hedera functional and have a great user experience on the other side, which is, from my perspective, needed in order to actually get main adoption and mass adoption is to have that user experience, which luckily Hedera allows us to do. And in all of that process, we created some systems that we needed to get more and better data from the mainnet. And then that spun up into its own company called Hgraph, which I'm a co-founder of. And Hgraph initially started as a GraphQL API, which Swirlds Labs was our first customer, giving them some information on the mainnet that they haven't seen before, which was really cool. And then we're now, and what we launched at Consensus 2023 was we've pivoted to becoming a one-stop shop for enterprise solutions. So if you are looking to get into Web3 and need to build something with Hedera, or just in general, usually enterprises know they have a use case, but they don't care the network it's built on. They just need a good user experience. Hgraph wants to be that provider of a solution, help create some really cool user experiences. And then we also have our developer tooling. So we still have our mainnet API, and we're coming out with use case specific SDKs for metaverse, for gaming, for loyalty points. All of these systems that should expedite the development in Hedera and kind of try to onboard Web 2 engineers from JavaScript that are really, really excited to get into Web3, but learning Solidity is really complicated. And luckily, Hedera is a really easy bridge to get them into because there's a JavaScript SDK. So building tooling that simplifies having an NFT, using token gated things, and allows that massive onboarding of just millions of developers that are interested but don't know the deep level of it. So trying to help user experience, developer experience, and build really cool solutions.
Yeah, and it feels very similar to sort of early days of internet, right? You had sort of, you had this idea that everybody was excited about, but I don't think people realized how many building blocks it really took to kind of build, a full application stack, to build the robustness, to have the APIs that make the internet as rich and robust as it is today. And so it sounds like, you are helping with that evolution.
Yeah, we really want creators to think about what they're creating and what's their target market and how are they going to build the thing that they're passionate about. And then we want them to focus on the creation, not how do I create it. We hope that we can take away all of that complexity with again, either our consulting services or our tooling at Hgraph, so that it's very simple for someone who have a really cool idea to execute it on Hedera.
And I think you're starting to also see people recognize, I think sort of the first evolution of NFTs was very much for people who are passionate about the community, passionate about the digital art. But it feels like there is this expansion of people saying, great, I want to tie NFTs to other kinds of assets too. As you guys talk to more of these enterprises, are you seeing their interest in that? What are some of the things you're hearing from them?
Yeah, absolutely. The hype curves are real, and I feel like the NFTs had a hype curve. And the application of a non-fungible token is much bigger than just a JPEG. Which obviously it's not just a JPEG. There's also entire community and exclusivity there. But the concept's very complicated to explain to just a non-crypto native person. Right. So what enterprises that we've been talking to, there's been use cases from shipping and understanding tokenization of assets. I think we can even look at Atma.io and how they're helping large scale enterprise track things using cryptography. And it's a lot of use cases that are about transparency. And so you get an added benefit when you do a decentralized database solution because it's no longer just like this one giant, I cracked into Equifax, I now have 100 million people's personal information. It's a decentralized method of storage, so you have security, but then information you want to be auditable is easily to put on the mainnet that anyone can then look at, which has been a use case for other enterprises as well. And what we're trying to do at Turtle Moon is get into music NFTs. So actually, May 18th, 7 p.m., my single is going to be launching on turtlemoon.io/music. And we're going to start delving into what's the mechanism of communication and interoperability between a musician directly with their fans without Spotify in the middle. And how do you make that relationship much more tangible to both parties and much more rewarding? And we're kind of diving into that. And I'm very excited to release the music and to explore that new medium, which is music distribution on Web3 and what does it mean and how does it functionally work, because I don't think that code has been cracked just yet, and we have a little bit of a different perspective on how it might work.
Yeah, and I think music is an interesting area too, right? Because I think it's starting to become at this convergence of Web3 and also generative AI, right? If I am a big fan, how do I potentially participate in, or if I'm an artist thinking about how do I engage with my community on not only creating the music, but then giving credit to the people who have created the various parts of the music.
Right. That's a very complicated thing, especially when you get into record deals and then you have royalties and then you have royalties that are bought by different entities that need to change. But we do have a solution for that as well that we're working on. It's working in testnet right now. But yeah, these are very complicated issues that are required to onboard major industries like the record industry into Web3. And we believe that Hedera is uniquely positioned to be at the forefront of these innovations. I'm a member of the NFT working group for the metadata. And this launch on Turtle Moon is actually the first pass at our music metadata standard that we'll eventually make a hip for in this group. But because you have the ability to put in 12 different files into one NFT, so you can have a full album. The single that I'm releasing, there's a regular and a deluxe, and the deluxe has behind the scenes, some other imagery. And then the deluxe version is also going to get an airdrop of the EP for free that I launch in the future. So kind of melding both the NFT culture that has been cultivated organically and the expectation of a musician and a consumer with some kind of exclusivity built into it, which again brings value to the consumer, and then the artist gets gets money and not a person in between them that gets 90, 85% of most income. And that's, how do you empower an artist that resonates with tens of thousands of people? Because right now, if you get hundreds of millions of plays on Spotify, you still are not at a point where you can only do music, which I think at that point, clearly there's something missing, and we're hoping we're finding that missing piece here.
Right. Well, and I think you have such an interesting background being a creator as well as a developer, right? I think that is one, that's an area where, you're looking at it from the perspective of somebody who wants to use it. Certainly, you have the technical chops to be able to go use it in today's, today's incantation or how it looks today, but the ability to then take it and develop it so it's available to that much broader set of artists who don't have that, right, and who just want that abstracted and to be able to create their music and to develop their art and then say, great, I just want that accountability to be able to be paid for it.
Right. Again, the complexity of onboarding is, and a lot of my technical experience is in user experience, and so I really value and think it's paramount to adoption to make things easy. And it's not just for the consumer. If you have to onboard musicians and explain the complexities of a network and explain what an NFT is, a lot of musicians just want to create. Like that's their thing. That's why it's what they're passionate about. And so having a focus on easy adoption from both sides of the equation, and being a musician and a person who loves music, I feel like I hopefully have those perspectives to make it simple and rewarding for all parties. But that's the challenge of Web3. We've had multiple bull runs and we're in a bear market now. And every bull run is different. I believe the next bull run, we're finally at the point of, okay, we know there's an immense amount of value add here. How do we translate that to an actual user? How does a user open up their phone? I explain nothing, but they get benefit from that. And I think we're in a really good position to be a part of that story at Hgraph and at Tournament.
Yeah. So I want to switch gears for a minute. You took your time. We were so appreciative to come out to Consensus in Austin a couple of weeks ago. You were participating in all of the Hedera activities, be that at the booth or outside. What was that experience like, right? I know what it's like being with Hedera and having gone to many of these and engaging with the community and with people who are just learning about Hedera for the first time. But what was your experience?
Yeah, it was really invigorating. Consensus was a unique group of patrons. So there's a lot of, like, I went to ETH Denver and was there with Hedera as well, which was an amazing experience. And Hedera did an amazing job with the booth. I think that was the coolest booth at that conference. But the clientele that we were talking to was vastly different. Consensus was a lot of enterprise focused on this real world use case. And our demo that we created at Hgraph really resonated with what a lot of people were looking for, which is, are you sustainable and green? Can I get past, the regulations that I need to get to from a sustainability standpoint, enterprise-wise? Right. Is it fast enough to replicate a good user experience that I can show? I can onboard my mom and she's not going to be confused. And then what are the costs, and can I predict those costs? And I'm glad that I was there with Hedera, because I could easily show the demo I made with Hgraph, which created a new account, had an NFT put into that account. We use our new Hgraph decentralized database SDK, which allows you to record data on Hedera Consensus Service extremely easily. And we use that for a loyalty pointing system. And then they would use some of those points that are not a fungible token, no security laws issues, but still a documented point that's immutable. And they would use that to buy a cup of coffee. So in 40 seconds, they got an NFT, they got points, and they use those points to buy a coffee. And that just really opened up people's minds to, okay, this is what Hedera can do. And it was a very cool experience to talk to people invigorated about user experience on mass adoption. And again, that's why I feel like that's where the next bull run is going. So very appreciative to be brought along. And it was a great experience to understand where is the kind of mind share right now of that demographic of big enterprise. And it's, I think, right in the wheelhouse of where Hedera can execute.
Yeah, and I think, one of the things we talk about is that, this scalability, right? So whatever you're trying to build, right? If you are, whether that is you're an artist, you would love your music to be able to be heard and, and your community to grow as big as you possibly can be, right? If you are if you are on the flip side, if you are a huge organization already, you want that same simplicity that you've given your users and all their other experiences with their Web3 experience. So it was interesting to see that evolution of consensus, I think, and to your point, probably a lot more enterprise focused than someplace like ETH Denver, but I think you're starting to see some of those things kind of come together, right?
Yeah, and I think like the current state, but as this is recorded, we're in the meme coin season. I think everyone in crypto knows that. And I think like specifically music, I follow a couple Web3 musicians and they can't, there's one guy who does a song a day and he's like, it's taking me like 0.3 ETH to mint my song. And so, and then he wasn't getting bids on the song because bids cost money and the gas was so high. I think it's like $50 a transaction if you're doing something on Uniswap. And so the other thing that Hedera does is not only low fees, but consistently pegged to USD. And so to me, like a decentralized internet is the future, and it's the method in which global communications can democratize access to each other. But if we require financial means in order to access that, we are losing a large part of the globe. And when things even cost $20 to mint, that's too much for a lot of people. And luckily, Hedera is, again, uniquely positioned to 10,000 NFTs for $76 always. And that allows musicians that would want to just make like 10 songs, all you need is a couple dollars, a couple pennies. I don't even think it hits $1 at that point. So yeah, it's the onboarding isn't just meeting people where they are. It's not just user experience, but it's also cost. And I think that's another thing that was talked about a lot. And enterprises wants to know, how can I guarantee my quarterly scale? Like this goes up 2x and I need to understand my revenue or my costs. I can't tell you that on most networks, but I can on Hedera. And so that was an easy selling point from the consensus booth, which was just like consistent USD paid costs. Yeah.
Good. Well, Patches, thank you so much for joining us. I hope that we will see you in real life at many other events in the future. I would encourage people to follow you on Twitter. Where can they find you?
TMCC_patches is my Twitter and my Telegram.
Okay. And where else can we point them? Where would you like them to go?
Hgraph.io. We have a sign-up form if you're looking for any consultant work in Web3 for Hedera or off Hedera. We're open to all consultant work there, especially enterprise specific. And then turtlemoon.io is our NFT services platform at Turtlemoon. And then again, May 18th, 7 p.m., we're launching my single. So it'll be good first experiment of ours of how does music work, and this, again, the new metadata.
Okay. And where will you be launching the single?
turtlemoon.io/music.
Okay. Got it. All right. Okay. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And we hope you will keep us posted on all your progress.
Will do. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.